very appreciative of, because without him this event would not be as awesome as it is. Please give it up for the one and only Mr. Chris Wardle.
Thank you. Welcome back on a very chilly night. Anybody cold? I broke out my thermals tonight. It was so cold. I'm going to start with a frustration that I have. I have this great love of poetry, but I have this frustration that I never get to read what you guys perform. So, and that annoys the hell out of me, because I like to read and reread. So my plan is that, well, in past incantations, I've actually run my own small publishing company. And the very first book I published was a book of poetry from a very early Darwin Poetry Festival in Australia in the 1980s. And with your kind cooperation, I propose to do the same thing here. So please keep your eye out for a call for contributions, and I hope you'll embrace not only the entry process, but the celebration of publication, inshallah, sometime in February. So, enough of the advertising. Unlike many of the great writers whose work I enjoy sharing in a spirit of cross-cultural collaboration, the poet I've chosen to present tonight is not dead and is not in another country. But let me start by acknowledging the roots of this. I'm very much indebted to people from Kyoto's Cove Bookshop in Pata. These guys run, so many awesome things. Word Warriors, Nepal Reads, Youth Poetry Slam, Word Warriors Live. And in fact, many of the talented artists that we see performing here, have arisen from Word Warriors. And the one I'm going to present tonight is no exception. What can I tell you about this poet as a person? Not much, because we haven't met yet. We have this online relationship. And, well, life imposes constraints, If you're a public transport using young woman living in Bulikel from Pokhara, there are all sorts of barriers to your participation in an evening event. Anyway, suffice to say that I'm going to let her words speak for themselves, and I hope that I can do them justice. So here then are the words of Shreya KC. So the first piece I'm going to do of hers is called Musings on Intimacy. Ah, intimacy. The drug we all crave. The most common addiction, invoking all manner of affliction, caused by friction betwixt a mix of pixie dust and hints of lust and a need for trust, and of course, the need for nudity. The need to just be with impunity. It's the ability to see and be seen. It's the silver screen fantasy, but man, to see it in reality. It's gold, Joe. It's the emotional gold, or precious stones mined from our souls. It's the shades of ivory in tired bones. It's so fucking hard to come by these days. Swipe. Swipe. You've been sideswiped like a Sodexo card. And to think you even got hard for that, you end up wondering where you're at. You end up questioning the facts. Like, why do I want to have sex? Why do I spill my guts on text? Why do we swarm like insects around the idea of the ideal? What's the deal? Intimacy? We poets, we're the worst junkies of this. We get on stage and bare our bits. Some of us flash our tits. We're outright strippers, line by line. We take the scissors and slice bits of our covering off until we're practically showing off. Saying through subtext, hey, I'm naked here, look at me. Someone see my vulnerabilities. someone see me. Intimacy? Lying in the arms of a lover, crying because you've found each other, trying to work around each other's defences through X-ray lenses. See past the pretences, reach through the chain-link fences to cup each other's cheeks in our palms, saying, hey, I know everything about you. You know everything about me. There isn't a lie you can tell me because we've been so unabashedly ugly already. Intimacy? It's ultimately the ecstasy of simplicity. It is escaping the complexity of all the layers dressing me and this bride-to-be who's so obscured by the dress you see. My skin becomes a confession and my soul a concept too deep to mention in the company of people who only read comic strips. Not even Calvin and Hobbes. They only enjoy Garfield, mainly the ones with Odie in it. It's sad, innit? When the parts we used to call privates are now just open secrets, and the real secrets, just like the little white egrets, soar far above the shores of our claws, far out of sight, so far they could as well be lost in the lights of space. You see, intimacy, it's hard to come by these days. It's harder still to give in to the craving once you've found it. Thanks.
Brothers and sisters, one more time for Mr. Chris Wardle.